Alrighty. Okay, so as I mentioned, my name is Barbara Kalmus. My co-founder is Perry Kalmus. The name of our company is AKALA. And okay, there we go. Perry and I have a combined over 70 years. I think I've added about another 10 years to that since we drew up this slide of college counseling experience. We've worked with over 15,000 students nationwide and internationally. Originally, I started a company back in Princeton, New Jersey called Princeton Education Network, which was an elite, as I say here, globally recognized prep program that focused on both test preparation as well as college admissions guidance. Just a little background about who we are. We've had some amazing press coverage of our company, and part of that comes from how we got started. Oops, I'm missing. Oh, we'll go there and we'll go back to the scandal in a moment. So we got our start in the education technology aspect of our company at Google about 8 years ago. And since then have been very involved in various technology companies to take our company to where it is today. We're very embedded at USC. I hope there are no UCLA graduates on. Sorry, fight on. But we're part of Techstars. Some of you may have heard of that and these other things. We're most known, though, interestingly, for our appearance on the Varsity Blues admission scandal documentary that was on Netflix. Some of you may have seen it. I'm sure you've all heard of the scandal. I just want to put it out right in the front here. We were on the ethical side. We were advisors on the documentary and appear throughout. And if you haven't watched it, it's kind of a cool thing to see and to learn about. And it's not over because he's just been released from jail and is back in business. So what we want to focus on is usually starting early. But for those of you who are seniors, have children who are seniors, it is not too late. So please don't panic. For the rest of you, the earlier you can kind of get started, it just lessens the stress. And that's one of our main goals, is to get to this time of year and not have the level of stress that so many people are going through, not just on the financial aid part, but on the whole college admission side as well. Okay. So we're going to just talk right now about sticker price, because I don't know if any of you have been following what some of the new prices are for colleges, but one college after another has been jumping on with $100,000 plus price tags. And I see these and I'm like, oh my God, what on earth is going on? But that's become the reality. And the other reality is the increase in prices for state schools. And we know there's a lot going on in the country right now with withholding of funds and cutting back on funds, cutting back on staff. And that is not helping the situation, unfortunately. But the sticker price is pretty shocking. But after tonight, I hope you realize there are going to be a lot of things you could do in regard to where that sticker price is, and then how can you work around it.
So
Igor, is you.
yeah, so this is a perfect segue into my next slide. I believe Barbara will take you through a specific example shortly, but let's start with the big picture. And this is what we typically do with our clients, with parents who want to know what is the problem, the size of the problem. Typically, paying for college education is one of the most expensive goals that people have, maybe right after retirement and buying a home. And so it's important to know what you're going to be facing. So this is the chart that shows you what the cost of college attendance in thousands of dollars is. And by the way, so you can see 4 lines in here. This is private, as well as private for profit, and then public, in state, and out of state. So 4 different lines. This is in thousands of dollars for the year, and this is an average, and this is just tuition. So something to keep in mind. And as you can see, it keeps going up. This is only official data through a couple of years back. And also what you need to know is that the prices typically grow faster than inflation. So on average, it's about 6% a year. Back in the 60s, the cost of public in-state school was low enough that a student could pay for it while having a part-time job. This is no longer the case, obviously. So this is the size of the problem, and this is again per year and per child if you have more than one. So again, starting as early as you can is great, but it's not too late yet. So if we go to the next slide, most people, oh, back please, one back.
One back. Okay, hold on a second. Nope. There we go.
Right, so, no, back, two back, please.
There we
Yeah,
go. So,
so, so obviously, there are multiple different ways of how you pay for college. And we're talking today mostly about scholarship and generally in financial aid. So financial aid, obviously, the more you can get of it, the better it is, other than paying your hard-earned dollars. And this is the breakdown just so that you know what financial aid looks like. So scholarships are the most preferred ones. They're merit-based and there is no repayment. Grants also do not require repayment, but they're need-based. And that's the part of financial aid. Work study is also something that students can earn as a part-time job that they can use to pay for college. And then, of course, there are loans. Loans, we'll talk a little bit more about it later on. They can be taken out by students or parents. And by definition, loans typically need to be repaid, although obviously there is a lot more going on with loans lately. I'll touch a little bit on that later on. And as you can see on the right, the chart that shows you where scholarships and grants fit in, it's roughly a quarter on average of what people use to pay for college. So it's not little. And of course, 18% is also loans. So keep that in mind. If we look at the next slide, in terms of saving, Robert, the next slide, please.
oh, no,
Um,
I haven't. Ah, come on, come on, come on.
okay. So in terms of actually
Get there.
uh,
I
paying for college outside of financial aid, I'm not going to spend too much time on it, but
this
what you need to understand is that there's a number of different considerations of how you can save for college. And saving in your checking or savings account or even in a regular brokerage account are by far not the best ways of doing this. There are a number of different accounts specifically designed to provide various types of tax advantages or other advantages to save for college. On the left is just a checklist of different benefits and disadvantages. On the right, these are just some of the types of accounts that you can use to save for college with some of those advantages. And if we look at the next one, this is the matrix that we put together at some point, looking at all these different types of accounts with different types of benefits. I know it's a little hard to read. I will provide a link separately so you can download this as a PDF. We'll also include it in the email that's coming to you later on. And I will talk a little bit more about it later on. But now we can go back to Barbara and she'll take you through a specific example.
Okay, so we're going to get down to the example, but first, I actually added this slide. These are things right up the front I want you to remember. Number one, and we'll mention this probably later on as well. You can appeal, this is for especially those of you who are seniors, you can appeal financial aid offers. That's number one, don't forget that. Number two, unless you receive a multi-year aid package up front, you need to apply for aid each year. Okay, so that's something to hold on to and remember. When October 1st comes around next year, don't forget you have to fill out the papers yet again. The other thing I want to draw your attention to, and this is for the younger students as well as the seniors, schools have inter-school scholarships. You're going to see some examples of those that are available for students once they're already in the school for sophomore year, junior year, senior year. And some of those scholarships are in the tens of thousands of dollars. And so we don't want you to forget about that and miss those opportunities. So you may have an aid package for year one, be panicking, what am I going to do about year two? There are other means of getting aid once you're in the school. And so what we want you to do is make the financial aid office your best friend. And I put a little PS here because it's just so true. The people who work in financial aid offices are some of the nicest people you will meet on campus. They're there to help and they love to help. So any question you have, if you have a concern, it's probably the friendliest office on the entire campus to call and ask for help. So I just want to put a plug in for schools for their financial aid offices. And please remember these particular elements. They're just too easy to forget. So first we're going to talk about, well, how much is college really going to cost me? This might be a little more pertinent for students who are now 9, 10, 11. So every school has on its site what's called a net price calculator. Okay. It doesn't obligate you for anything. The information doesn't go anywhere. The school doesn't even see it. Okay. But it lets you put in data from your current situation and all the numbers and all the pieces and all that, and get an estimate based on what you put in, what it might cost you to actually attend a school. Okay. So we're going to go to Syracuse. Okay. A little bit cold again up there for those of you who were on when Igor and I were talking about Cornell, but so worth the cold. So if you look at today's estimate for Syracuse, this is now for this upcoming year. The sticker price is pretty like shocking. Okay. My last tuition at Syracuse, tuition, room and board, this may give a clue of how old I am. It was $3,500. So I'm not really good on math, but I think that's about 30 times today what it was back then. If I did the math somewhat correctly. Okay. Um, and the price appears to be shocking. So what I did is I put in kind of just fooled around with some numbers and I did their net price calculator. I put in the family lives in New Jersey, married parents, household of 4, one child going to college. There's so many different ways to answer the question. So I just put this in just to see what would happen. And I put it in for this slide I did about 2 years ago. And when you put in your information, financial information, it's called prior. So it's not this year's income, it's income and taxes from 2 years ago. So I put in 120,000 as gross income, 15,000 in assets, student assets 0. And I know those were low numbers, but I was just curious what would happen in a school. So at the time when I did this slide, the price for Syracuse was at 80,000. EFC means estimated family contribution. And what Syracuse came back at was, based on the numbers you gave us, between what you will qualify on the federal side and what you will qualify for our aid, you'll have to pay $21,474. Okay. So, what I would like everybody to do is start to do some research. This is not for the 12th graders. Start to do some research on each school's website. Type in net price calculator, and you'll see estimated cost of attendance, which you just saw in Syracuse, $94,000. And then fill out the forms, fill them out as honestly as you possibly can. And then you get some kind of an idea, is this still way out of range? I ran another set of numbers and I upped the numbers a lot. And it came out that my estimated family contribution was more like $65,000. So you'll only know once you put your own numbers in, but it's an amazing tool to use for early planning. But then I did a little more research at Syracuse and I said, well, can I get other kinds of aid? What you're also going to find out when you go to the financial aid sections of university websites, it's filled with information. Okay. They'll tell you what other kinds of aid is available. They'll give you all the links to these places. That's what I mean that they're helpful. They want to help. Okay. And so we know you can get scholarships, you can get grants, you can get loans. I think Igor probably is going to have a lot to say about that. I certainly do. Student employment. special programs, graduate student aid, summer aid. And when you go on the site and you click into each of these places, they tell you lists and lists and lists of available sources. Okay. So when we looked at Syracuse and we broke it down, we're like, well, what happens there? Well, number one, they have merit-based money. Okay, it does not need to be repaid. And this is the money, and you see what it's based on. It's basically academics. Okay, where do you fit? So if you look at what's called the common data set, for those of you who are not aware of what that is, if you put in the name of a university and type CDS next to it, it's called the common data set. Okay. And if you have the patience to scroll through a whole lot of pages, it's filled with amazing information. And you can then see what were the accepted classes credentials in terms of GPA, in terms of standardized testing, all of that information. And if you are landing high in the upper 25th percentile, there is a good chance that you can qualify for merit-based aid at a university. Now, the aid might be $5,000, but the aid could also be $50,000. Every school is different. And again, this is all available on their sites. Okay. But when you are in that top percentage rankings of what they're looking for, very often you will actually qualify for merit aid, which is certainly helpful. Oops, no. Okay, wait a minute. So sorry. Here we go. Then, and this is again unique to Syracuse, but I'm sure pretty much every other school in this country has it. They have departmental scholarships. Okay. So if you're interested, for example, in pre-law, entrepreneurship, there's a scholarship specific to that. These are all in the business department. There's an investor fraud and awareness scholarship. These are things you apply for. Okay. Future entrepreneurs. I'm not sure if I have a typo here on Workamajig, or that's actually the name of the scholarship program. I hope it's actually the name because it's a great name. Then these are scholarships unique to the fashion interior design department. This is all at Syracuse that you can apply for. Okay. Here are scholarships at Syracuse for focusing on racial and ethnic background. Okay. These are not connected to the DEI world crisis right now that's going on. These are scholarships that if you go on to these sites and these connections, you'll see what at Syracuse is available. For example, if you were a Hispanic or Latino student. Okay. So there are other sources, and Syracuse posts them. Every school does this. That's why I want you to start to feel kind of calm about this, because you'll have so many resources. There are other outside scholarship search engines. These are the ones that they've listed on their site. Okay. And so they give you a wealth of information. Okay, that is really amazing. And you don't have to go far. Just go into financial aid on a college website, see what they have published there. So Igor already touched on this a little bit, okay, about the sources of aid. And so we know there, and we're going to talk in a minute about scholarships because it's different than aid. And sources of aid, as Igor said, is, you have federal, you have state, you have university that comes in these forms, right? Grants, scholarships they themselves give, student loans, and work study programs. By the way, just tuck this away in your hats. If you have seniors, tuck it kind of close in your hat. One of the easiest ways to get money at a university is you apply when you're a freshman to be a resident assistant, an RA in a dormitory. That gets you free room and board. Huge savings. And all you're doing is you're living on a floor with freshmen and kind of you're their babysitter, essentially. But it's a great way to get money that a lot of students don't know about. So we'll start here with the federal aid and what is the process, because this is more pertinent now, especially for the seniors. So we always start with the free application for federal student aid, and this is the website, and I believe we are going to be sending out these slides, so you'll have all this information. So any aid that you will qualify for from an institution starts here with a federal form. If you don't file the federal form, you cannot get financial aid from an institution. Get scholarships, something else, okay? So you fill out this form. Um, it's again, we're based on what's called prior. So we're in 2025, it would be based on your 2023 tax returns. Okay. And what that will do is it will come up based on federal numbers. What is your estimated family contribution for a university? That doesn't mean the federal government is giving you that money. It's telling you what you would qualify for, what they're telling a school you qualify for. So if a school meets financial aid, that would be the number that they would be meeting. Okay. Um, and this just tells you, why it's important to file. Now, we get questions all the time, as Igor, I'm sure you do as well. We make too much money. We're never going to get aid. Should we still fill out the FAFSA? Yes. You know what? You just never know what's going to happen. You just never know. Here in California, people up in the Palisades, lost everything, lost their homes, lost everything that was in their homes. And yeah, last year they probably could afford huge tuitions, but not this year. But if they don't file the form ahead of time, they can't qualify to get the aid. So I'm not wishing on anybody a disaster, okay? But be prepared ahead of time. So October 1st hits, those of you who are seniors, you probably have already done this, fill out the FAFSA, okay? The other
So,
form,
sorry, if I could just add one more thing. So,
sure.
Barbara is definitely right that if you don't ask, you're not going to get it, and you never know what it is. And it doesn't take that much time these days to fill out FAFSA. But one thing to also remember is that certain scholarships, even though they're not need-based, they may be looking for you to file that FAFSA. So that may be another reason to fill it out.
Yeah. No reason not to. Simply no reason.
Exactly.
Okay. The other one, no reason not to, is what's called the CSS profile. So you think, great, I filled out the FAFSA. I know what it says that I'm qualified for. Now I'm going to go apply to financial aid at all these schools. Well, not so fast. CSS profile is a form that is required. I don't remember the number of schools. I'm blanking on it right now. Igor, if you know, or Steve, if you know, I just totally blanked how many require it. A lot. You get to the CSS profile through the Common Application. Okay. Sorry, through the College Board, not Common App, through the College Board. And so you go onto a link, collegeboard.com or .org. I don't know whether they're still nonprofit or not. I think both links take you there. And then you type in the search bar CSS profile. So the CSS profile, and I believe I've got some more specific slides up. What? I am trying to figure out what is going on with my computer. All right, let's try this. Okay, do you hear the clicking? I don't know why it's not advancing. There we go. No, there we go. That's not the one that I wanted. Okay, so this is the link if you want to screenshot it. This is the link for the CSS profile. Okay, and the difference between the two of CSS profile and FAFSA, CSS profile goes a little deeper into your finances. They take into consideration some things that FAFSA does not. Okay. And they're using a bit of a different methodology for it. And it's also FAFSA is in general, just for the entire nation, CSS profile unique to each school. So there are schools that will allow you to put in your home value, and they will then count that as your assets, and it brings your need down. There are other schools that say, we're not going to look at your home value. You're okay, which people in California are very thankful for because the prices here are so inflated as in the New York area, right? But other schools say, no, you have a house and it's valued at, $2 million. Well, it may be $2 million because you bought it 60 years ago. You wouldn't be able to buy the $2 million house today, but they're saying, well, you've got $2 million in your house. Okay. So that's a school by school issue. Okay. So the CSS profile you're filling out for each school. All right. And again, they take into account things that the FAFSA does not take into account, which you might be thinking coming off the FAFSA, you're going to qualify for something huge, and you might find that not so big when you go through the CSS profile. Okay. Okay. That I own a tech company and I cannot advance these slides. I have no idea what's going on here. So sorry. Here we go. Okay. Um, okay. So I think that I may have skipped through some slides with this craziness that's going on my computer right now. I already did speak about um, key sources of scholarships. So let's talk now purely about scholarships, because I know that Igor's going to definitely be addressing much more on this financial aid piece and income and all of those pieces. So there are actually a lot of sources for scholarships. Okay, we have colleges and universities offer them themselves, as I showed you on Syracuse. You have local organizations and foundations. So if there are local civic organizations in your town, contact them. They may offer scholarships for town residents. Okay. In fact, most of these organizations put their information in high school counseling offices. And so you always want to go to a high school counselor and say, do you have a list of the local organizations and foundations that offer scholarships? Okay. Corporations and professional associations. Very often, you may not be aware of it. You may, if you already have seniors, but younger. Very often, places where you work offer scholarships for children of employees. It's a quick question. Very famously, the answer to any question that you don't ask is no. Ask. I have a student getting ready to go to college. Does our company offer any aid or scholarships for college? I think you'll be surprised at how many actually do. There are also religious and community groups that offer scholarships, and there are also national competitions. We're going to go way, way deeper into this, okay? So here's an example. The list is very long. I only put a few because I know you know all the names. Private corporate scholarships, okay? So you might not fit every category here, okay? A lot of them are focused on underserved, under-resourced kids, um, or focus primarily on diversity. But they're also, for example, the Target Scholarship is based purely on community service, okay? The Google Lime Scholarship is based on your technology and leadership within that field as a high school student, okay? The Reagan Scholarship, which is paired with GE, is focused on leadership. Okay, the McDonald's focused on Latinx and community involvement. So there are a lot of scholarships that, yes, they are for underrepresented, underserved kids, but there are a ton of corporate scholarships that are available for students based on a particular area of interest. Okay, so this is just an example of some of them. And again, I use these because I know you know these companies. This is a listing. Please screenshot this. I think we are sending out. We have this and we have one more slide on resources. I love every one of these companies. Please register. Starting ninth grade, you can register. 10th grade, register on all of these companies. They are companies that work specifically in the scholarship world. Now, the only one here that has a small fee is this one on top, Scholarship Owl. But I had the pleasure of getting to know them and work through their platform at the National College Conference 2 weeks ago. And I was so impressed with what they offer to you and your students in terms of ease of applying for scholarships, keeping kids on target, making sure the dates are all like in place and all that. It's a phenomenal website. They do offer a 1 week free program, as so many do, just to try it out. And then they have a 3 month and a 6 month and a year rate. And then they have what's called a VIP rate. That I would stay away from because a lot of what they offer are things like people like us already are offering in terms of help with the essays or other items like that. And I don't think what they're adding is worth it. But the 6 month rate, I believe, was $20 a month. so incredibly worth it, and they are my new favorite company. Although actually all of these are just amazing. And so you register on each one with all your information. You click off categories that fit who you are, and then they will feed you scholarships that you can apply for. So, just a bit of a warning. There are a lot of scholarships that are out there today, which are called no essay scholarships. A ton of them. It doesn't take a whole lot of time to apply, but it's kind of like going into the lottery, because if it's a no essay scholarship, you can imagine how many kids are applying. Okay, tens of thousands. And they give one $2,000 scholarship, one $1,000 scholarship. So I'm not saying don't fill those out and don't apply for them, but certainly don't count on them. Okay. And sometimes with the no essay scholarships, a lot of us worry about their kind of phishing scams to get your information, and then they're hitting you with other things that they want you to buy. But there are some no essay scholarships that have very specific requirements. So if you are a child of a deceased veteran, sorry to be so morbid, but something like that, and you could apply and have a chance at that. And there you're not looking at a pile of 50, 60, 70,000 applicants. But if it's just simply apply, you might get the thing. Just please be wary of that. But they also are filled with all the other scholarships. So again, you put in your information and then they feed you, hey, here's a scholarship that fits you. Okay. Every one of them an amazing organization. We've been vetting them for years. We've been working with all of them for years and feel very comfortable giving these names to you. Okay. And these are additional resources. FastWeb is kind of like the granddaddy of them all. I don't know how many of you have registered on it. Please register on every one of these. College Board also does have a scholarship portal, something called Mapping Your Future and collegescholarships.org. Mapping Your Future, collegescholarships.org. I haven't worked with personally with my students, but the names have come to me from very reliable resources. Again, unless something is fully vetted, we don't put it up for you. So these are 4 additional sources, okay? Now, when you're filling out these applications, the ones with essays, and by the way, that there are essays required then brings the numbers down who are applying, because a lot of kids go, yeah, whatever, I'm not going to write another 500-word essay, okay? So this is just an example of 4 questions that are on the rise.org, sorry, website, and they're in that list of the kinds of questions that you might be asked. Okay. And so I said, okay, well, those are 4 great questions. But then I decided I've got great friends at ChatGPT. Okay. I'll admit it. And I said, okay, give me questions that typically show up on scholarship applications. And this is what came back. And then what I did was I took every one of these questions and I went to all the sites of scholarships that I right now have in my own database. And I wanted to make sure they were questions that actually were asked, and they were. Okay, so every one of these I vetted. I took out a few. Every other of these have actually appeared on scholarship required essays. And so I titled this, Are You Ready to Answer These Questions? So this might be a little more pertinent for younger students. But when you read the kinds of questions that you're going to have to answer to qualify for a scholarship, there might be things that you could start to do right now as a 9th, the 10th, 11th grader to prepare to be able to write that essay to potentially get a scholarship. Okay. So again, I do believe we are sending this out. If not, you can screenshot the page or get in touch with me and I'll send it to you. But these are the things you want to start thinking about right now. For those of you who are seniors, okay, you will see on the scholarships, once you register on all those sites, they're going to shoot you back scholarship options. And then you'll see which questions you're actually going to have to answer right now. Okay. But for the younger students on here, never too early to start thinking, if I have to answer this question to get a scholarship, what can I do 9, 10, 11 to be prepared to answer it in a way that they might want to turn around and give me money. Okay. Oh, this is, I just want to say one more thing. It's kind of a warning. Be careful. I can't really have the right word for this. Many universities, okay, will say, for example, you qualify for from our university, you are responsible to pay $35,000 and we are going to give you aid at 50. But the schools will come back and say, do you have any other sources of aid coming in? And so if you have won scholarships, you have to list them. And there's one of two things that'll happen. One, and you can find this out on their websites or call their offices, they'll tell you their policy. One, don't worry about it. You have that money now. You can use it for books. You can use it for other things at school. We're not going to take away your $50,000 of aid. You're fine. And the other ones will say, oh, you had $12,000 in scholarships. We were going to give you 50. Sorry, we're going to give you 38. Okay. So I always have to give that warning because lots of times kids put blood, sweat, tears into writing these essays and getting the recommendations if they need recommendations and doing all the work. And then they find out that all that did was lower the amount the school was going to turn around and give them. So please be careful with that. And check with schools that you know that you're interested in. What is your policy? Okay, because sometimes it's hours and hours and hours and hours to get these applications in. And if there will not actually be a financial benefit, you might want to reconsider going through the process. Okay, Igor, back to you.
Thanks, Barbara. So, if you remember, my last slide was with that matrix of different types of accounts that you can use to save for college, and that's a big topic on its own. We obviously don't have time for that, so I just want to spend a couple of minutes on one of the most common ones, which is the 529 savings plan. First of all, I want you to understand that this is not a solution that's great for everybody. It's just one of the more common ones. And also, even if you are familiar with it and maybe you are using it, there's probably stuff that you don't know about it. So I just want to run through this as an example. And like I said, there is about 6 or 7 other types of accounts that you can use, and you can use some of them in conjunction. This is for saving for college. So the 529 plan, the main benefit of it is the federal income tax benefit, which is when you start the account and you start investing in it, the investments grow on a tax deferred basis. What that means is that you don't pay taxes. Let's say you put in $10,000, by the end of the year it's 12. Sorry, can we go back to the previous list, please? Yeah. You don't pay taxes on the $2,000. In fact, you don't even pay taxes when the distributions happen, meaning when you take the money out, provided that you're using those funds for education. So the funds that you can use for education include college direct and indirect expenses. It may even include some student loan repayments, and in some states, even private tuition for K to 12, which you may have not known. Although in states like New York and California, unfortunately, the states do not allow that. But in many other states, it is allowed. The contribution limits are pretty high, which means in some the states typically have a limit. The lowest limit of all the states is $235,000, which is pretty high, and the highest is over $500,000. So as you can see, you can actually save more than enough in those accounts to completely cover tuition for 4 years. It also has low maintenance, meaning the fees on the accounts are minuscule. They also have favorable financial aid treatment. What does that mean? A lot of parents come to us and say, "What is the point for me to open this account if I have to show it in financial aid, and then it's being treated as my asset, and I get penalized for that?" Well, if you're using a regular brokerage account, that's definitely going to be the case. If you're using a 529 plan, it's not. And I don't want to go into all the details, but basically it's being treated as asset of the student, and the forms know that this is being used for to specifically pay for college, and therefore you're not getting penalized for having that money in that account. In addition, it may have some state tax benefits. For example, in the state of New York, you can write off $10,000 a year from your New York state taxes every year, and that's not based on your income. So think about that. That could be a big benefit as well. Um, Couple of other things to know. There are no self-directed investments. That means within the plan, you only have a handful of options. It's usually designed by the financial institution that handles it, and it's usually big companies like Fidelity, Vanguard, State Street, and so forth. So it's easier, it's more intuitive for you to invest, but you can also have an advisor help with that if you'd like. But you cannot by individual investments into that fund other than the ones that are provided. The next one is pretty recent actually. Some people say, well, what happens if we save up too much and then we can't use the money for education? Well, the newest laws allow you to roll up to $35,000 into the student's Roth IRA. So imagine if your student is done with college and you have $35,000 left, instead of taking money out and paying taxes and penalties on this, you can use it for that student's Roth IRA and get them started in retirement. You can also use up to $10,000 to pay off their student loans. You can also transfer to another beneficiary if you have more kids, if you have a nephew or niece. You can even put yourself as another beneficiary. And this way, you do not face taxes and penalties if you just do that. You can keep the money in there, and this is actually pertinent to anybody who has a 12th grader. It's not too late to start now. You can still accumulate money in that fund right now. So it's still gonna grow tax deferred until you take the money out. Maybe it's gonna be for next year, maybe for 3 years from now, but it still makes sense to open one for you if you haven't yet. And also the other point to remember is that anyone can open an account with any beneficiary, which means your parents, students' grandparents may want to open an account as well. In fact, maybe you want to encourage them, because that's another way potentially for grandparents to help pay for college, and they can still enjoy the same state tax benefits, by the way. And by the way, if it's a grandparent's account, it's not part of financial aid calculation at all. So that part is completely out, as well as aunts and uncles and other members of the family, if you'd like. So that's the 529 plan, just that you have a better understanding of what that is and how to use it.
Well, can I ask a really dumb question? Because
Sure.
finance is not my world, and I bet there are people who are wondering this. So if I put money into this account for my
Right.
grandchild, so let's say I put $100,000 in, right? And it's invested with one of these funds, then it's going to grow from the 100 to wherever it goes by the time I take it out.
Yes, and it goes tax deferred. The only thing is you can't, well, it's not recommended that you put in $100,000 in one shot, because technically, when you open one of these accounts, it counts as a gift to your minor, and there are some gift laws out there. So if you put in, as an individual, I believe it's $18,000, or as a married couple, you can put it up to $36,000 a year without worrying about those gift taxes. If it's more than that, you may have to pay tax, which is obviously not ideal. So that's just something to keep in mind. But yes, generally you can start The year that the child is born, if you'd like, you can start that early, or you can start at any other year, and you can still do that.
Thank you.
There's actually a catch up. You can do a one-time contribution in 5 years. So again, if you're 12 grade, for example, or 11th grade, and you haven't started, you can put in basically 5 times the annual amount, which is 90,000 instead of 18, and do it as a one-time contribution without paying gift tax as well.
Wow. Awesome. Thank you. Oh, okay.
Yeah,
There we go.
yeah.
Oh,
So
uh,
next one. Yeah,
there we go.
yeah.
Oh,
So,
there we go.
Okay,
Okay.
so I know we're running out of time, so just wanted to talk a minute about the loans. So there's four main types of federal loans. There's a direct subsidized loan, which is the most useful if you can get it. It's definitely based on financial aid. These are the different amounts based on schools. And the way that these work is basically it's in the name of the student, and you don't have to repay anything until 6 months after graduation date, after which the loans start get into the repayment phase, and then they get indexed to the current interest rate, and that interest rate will reset every year. And on the right side, you can see where those interest rates have been recently. So obviously keep that in mind. They've raised quite a bit in the last couple of years, but they're hopefully on the way back down again. They're tied to the Federal Reserve rate, just like mortgages essentially and most other loans. The other type is direct unsubsidized loan. It's also based on financial need. The problem is if it's unsubsidized, that means you basically have to start repaying it right away, just like a car loan or a mortgage. You get the lump sum, and then the bill is due. There's also plus loans. This is mostly for graduate students and also for parents of dependent undergraduate students. They're somewhat similar. The difference is the rates are typically higher. And then there's the consolidated loans. This is typically something you can worry about after graduation of your child. If you have multiple loans, you can usually consolidate them at a slightly lower level. So that's the loans. And like I said, typically loans imply that you do need to repay them. There's been a various number of different programs that allow you to potentially decrease your loan amounts, or sometimes get forgiveness for not paying for a period of time, or even eventually get a forgiveness after many years, depending on a number of different situations. But we don't really have time for that. And I would encourage people to think about loans as you would have to eventually repay them, either you as a parent or your student.
Yeah, Igor, can you address for the audience, because I know this is definitely on everybody's minds. From my understanding of loans, um, with some loans, there is no option for prepayment. And so that students are often paying a loan out for 25 and 30 years with compounded interest, and it ends up just being crushing. Um,
Right. I believe those are private loans, meaning not from the federal government. These are loans provided by third parties, some sort of financial organizations that may have that. To my knowledge, federal student loans have the prepayment option at any point.
Great, thank you. Okay. Oop. Ah, there we go.
Okay, so a couple of words about us. Eureka Wealth Solutions, we're fiduciary, we're fee only, a registered investment advisor, which means we don't sell any products that have any kind of commissions. And fiduciary means we do whatever our clients need to do. And we basically specialize in financial planning. As I mentioned, we focus on college and retirement planning. We can also manage, in addition to your regular investments, we can manage plans like 429 plans as well as others. I'm not going to go through all of this. Our motto is one size fits one, because we know you're not like everybody else. And even the 529 plans, yours is going to be different than anybody else's, and it may not be the best for you as for somebody else. So we always look at your individual situation. And if we go to the next slide, this is, well, this is me. Just a few words about me. I've spent over 25 years in the financial industry, and been running this company for 11 years now. This is the financial planning that we typically do. So we start overall with your goals and your values. We understand what you're trying to do, essentially what you're working for, what the money is for. And we'll look at your cash flow management and your budgeting. We'll look at all kinds of different things like what if scenarios, what happens if X, Y, and Z happens. And this really provides you not only with the plan for many years to come, but with a state of mind, basically where you know what's happening and you know what you're going to be doing in case something else happens. Specifically, if we go to the next slide on college planning, these are the different things that we do as part of college planning. What you need to understand is that it's not just about saving for college. It's the whole picture, because that's one of your goals. We make sure that we calibrate it with other goals. We make sure that it's not just that you put away enough money to save for college, that you have other options like financial aid, like loans, like scholarships, that also for financial aid, for example, as Barbara mentioned, we look at prior year, which means there are strategies that we can utilize to make sure for financial aid application, we put the best situation for you to get that extra financial aid than you would otherwise. Again, we prepare that through a number of tax strategies. We also use technology platform that allows you to track live where your goals are. You can see if there is adjustments that needs to be made, and this is something that we as advisors will discuss with you on a regular basis. And like I said, the reason we are partnering with AKALA is because we know what the end goal is. You want your child to go to the best school that they can possibly be, and we're trying to do our best to help your student and yourself to be prepared both for that college life and for paying for it. And this is all part of the college planning solution.
Great. Okay. So I learned so much.
There's a question in the
Steve,
Q&A
yeah.
for Igor. There's
Okay.
actually two.
Yep.
Oops, sorry. Do I have to pull it up, Steve? I'm sorry.
Um,
How do I get to the Q&A? Oh my God. Okay, hold on a second. Oh gosh. All right, we're talking.
I just read
Right.
it. The first one was, what was the
Right.
return of 529 for the last 7 years
Right.
if I use S&P 500 type fund?
Right. So as far as 529 plan is concerned, this is just a type of fund. It's a wrapper around it. Obviously, the return is going to depend on your specific choices of funds. And even though it doesn't have, I believe, the ones that I have seen in New York, New Jersey, Massachusetts, and California, they don't actually have an S&P 500 fund. Typically, they would say something like a large cap fund. And so it really depends. I can't give you an exact return. It also depends on the dates, but it tracks roughly what the S&P has done, and you can look that up. Typically, in 529 plans, they will have 5 or 6 of these large type of funds that do track main stock or bond types of investments, and they will also have several sort of aggressive level or age-based funds, meaning if you're starting out and you don't need to take money out because your student is a baby, 2 or 3 years old, and you have 15 years. it typically gets more aggressive. And then the closer you get to the time when you need the money out, it gets more moderate and then conservative. And obviously, performance is going to vary greatly based on the year and based on the type of investment that you have. But also, it also depends on, how you or your advisor manages that money on the timing of it. So I know this was a long-winded answer to that question, but the fact is, if you are tracking something similar to S&P 500, it will be very close to that performance, but really performance depends on all these other factors.
And the second
And
question is it too late to start investing in 529 for a current ninth grade student?
Right. So I believe they touched on that already a little bit. It's never really too late to start. You can even start in 12th grade. In fact, you can even start in college. If they're a freshman, you can still open a 529 plan and use it even the same year. If it's there for 6 months, the money grows still tax deferred, and you can use that. Or you can save it for a few more years and pay then. So it's really never too late to start, unless, of course, your student graduated already. Then you probably want a different beneficiary for that. But generally, obviously, the sooner you start, the better. But it's never really too late.
Awesome. Okay, so we're going to be sending out some information to everybody who was on today with QR codes for both Igor and for me. I can pull it back up if you would like. Let me just actually, I don't know if I can do this. Let's see. Okay, I don't know why it is blurred out. We are going to send it out. We'll have the QR code for Igor, QR code for us. Igor takes care of the whole money piece, so we don't have to think about it. Thank you, thank you. We take care of the rest, starting as early as 7th grade, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, getting ready for that post-high school journey, making sure kids are registered in the right classes, doing the right activities, creating a lane of interest, giving them all the tools they need to create, build on interests, making sure they have everything in place. So by the time you do reach this time of year, senior year, sigh of relief, no stress. You've got your finances set. You have the other part set with us. And kids can have a happy senior year. So thank you so much, everybody, for attending. We really appreciate your time. And if you have further questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to Igor or to us, and we'll be sending the contact information shortly.
Right. And I just wanted to add, so the QR code, our QR code will get you to the page where you can set up a free consultation with me. And when I say free, it's absolutely free. Ask any questions you want and try to understand what we can do to help or what you need to do. And also, as a result of our cooperation with AKALA and this webinar, we are offering a one-time first month of financial planning for free. So you can get a chance to see what we can do for you. And believe me, in our industry, it's really not done very, very often because so much work goes up front into getting this done. So I hope you take me up on this offer, and hopefully we'll speak soon.
Awesome. So Igor, thank you so much. Steve, thank you. And to all of you who joined, thank you so much for joining us today. And we hope we will see you again soon. Have a great
Thank
night.
you.